Welcome to CNH Circle K webinar for member engagement, and we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, so here we have introduction of guest. My name is Brennan Kane. I'm on the Communications and Marketing Committee for the External Relations Chair. I go to UC Riverside, and I'm an incoming third-year Media and Cultural Studies major.
Hi everyone, my name is Marnea Mogus. I'm on the Member Development and Education Committee and I serve as your Professional Development Coordinator. I go to UC San Diego, I'm entering my third year and I'm studying International Business.
Hi everyone, my name is Angela. I serve on the Member Recognition Committee as your Northern Recognition Specialist. I currently attend Sacramento State as a second year studying business.
All right, now that we have our guests introduced, today we're going to go over what is member engagement and why it is important. So member engagement is the interaction between you and your members and focuses on the aspects of recruitment and retention. It's how you communicate with them and represent or present yourself to them and how you get them to be involved in your club. And you might be asking, why is this important? Well, members are the building blocks of your club and our entire organization. And without them, we would have no one to form new connections with, host events for, or work for a greater cause. So this webinar will go over how to engage members, how to keep members engaged, the do's and don'ts, and resources. If you have any questions throughout this webinar, feel free to ask them in the chat and it will be answered at the very end of the webinar. So I will be discussing how to first engage members. This will be going over tabling, general body meetings, and more. So tabling is effectively presenting yourself on your campus to countless of other college students. Here you're able to garner your first initial interaction with potential new members. In terms of how to approach new members, you first want to reach out to them. Here you can just wave and say hi. That's pretty much fine. And once you clicked with that person, introduce yourself and ask them for your name. And just a quick side note here, don't talk about your position just yet, since you want to establish common ground with the person first. There's really no need to sort of rush the conversation, get in the Circle K right away. So once you establish common ground with that person, you want to shortly summarize Circle K in like a 30-second pitch using our 3 tenets of service, leadership, and fellowship. The reason why you want to use a 30-second pitch is that you want to make your club known in this explanation, which is short and gets right to the point. Think of it as like you're pitching an idea to a media outlet or you're pitching a story to someone in an elevator. Finally, try to see if you can start a friendly conversation with that person and relate Circle K to him or her. For this, please try to avoid using acronyms since these are new members and they won't be familiar with acronyms such as FTC or DCON just yet. So for tabling tricks and tips, while you're talking to them, ask them what you're looking for in a club, since people have different reasons for joining a club when they come into college, whether it be to be more involved on campus or do community service, etc. With that, you can continue to relate Circle K with them with whatever they may be interested in. If they're interested in community service, talk about how you guys do community service, what kind of events you do, stuff like that. One tip is try to remember their name because if you remember their name by the first meeting and you remember them, that can really make them feel pretty special. So try to include their name in the conversation, which I think helps. And another thing you can do is reach out to them when an event is happening, which helps the members feel like they're invited into the club and they already have an attachment to it early on. One thing to note is that if you notice someone is not really interested or is in a hurry to get to class or work or something, leave them be, it's kind of bad if you force a conversation onto them. You don't really need to take it personally and just move on. And finally, be both friendly and professional. As you gotta remember, you're representing your club on your campus and you're also representing part of the CNH district as well. Next, we're going to be talking about general body meetings, which are your most attended event, especially at the beginning of the year, when you're going to have abundance of new members attending your meetings. This is an important opportunity to show that your meetings are more than just announcements for your members. So games like Kahoot and Jeopardy can really like bring out the excitement of people and can really bring some like fun energy to your meetings. You can also have affirmation notes to your members, which is a great way to connect yourself to others with kindness and help older members bond with newer members. Recap videos are also a great way to show your 3 tenets of your club and the experiences that returning members and older members have had at past events. In addition, you can bring in guest speakers, which would allow them to speak about their experiences. And if people want to network based on their major or something like that, or work with Kiwanians in the future, it can be an incentive for them to come to meetings. Finally, a social before or after the meeting, such as like a boba run, a dinner date, or a gym hangout, stuff like that will allow new members to have more fun with you personally and feel like they have a connection and or friendship with people in Circle K early on.
So another way to keep your members engaged is by hosting various services and socials. So it's very important to maintain a steady stream of events just so that members always have opportunities to come out and meet everybody else. One thing to keep in mind, though, is the difference between casual and formal settings. So for example, a lot of the times a service may feel more of a formal setting because it does have its own rules and regulations and everybody has to be there at a certain time, versus a casual social would be potentially going out to dinner afterwards, just talking to people, and just allowing for free conversation to flow. Both ways are very effective in keeping your members engaged, but it's great to have a balance. Additionally, when you have this many events, it's important to utilize a public calendar, such as Google Calendars or keeping a calendar on your website, just so that your members can see when and where the events are. And it's also very important to make sure that there is a variety of events on different days, just so that you can really get as many people's interests as possible and to also accommodate for the fact that people have very different schedules. Another way to keep your members engaged is by having a lot of leadership opportunities for them. Since Circle K is a service leadership organization and leadership is one of our 3 tenets, it's important to give these members an opportunity to become a leader themselves and to really develop their own skills. Some versions of leadership include chairing an event, may that be fundraisers, social service projects, or even allowing a member to host their own workshop at your school. By giving them the opportunity to do this, it gives them a chance to work one-on-one with board members to guide them and even just to explore general interests for them. Another thing that you can do is allowing members to chair committees. Some schools have large-scale events that they have. It may be better for you to utilize the impact team structure. These means that you can spread awareness for things or host large events, but all of these are great opportunities for members to become better leaders. Finally, you can also have executive assistants or even board member-led teams. So executive assistants, for example, would be a historian may need help creating the scrapbook or taking pictures at events if they can't be at each one. And board member-led teams means potentially a tech team so that somebody can help your technology chair in order to continually update everything that you need. But the most important thing about providing leadership opportunities is to find out what works with your club and stick with it.
And there's recognition. Recognition is actually really important, and it's one of the factors that do motivate members to continue going to service events, meeting new people, and just taking on leadership roles. So some recognition that you guys can do within your clubs or your divisions is member of the week or month. It's just someone who like excel in either service, leadership, fellowship. It's just seeing them talking to like other members, encouraging other members, attending service events. Just like bring up the spirit when they're at service events. So that's just something like they would feel more like motivated to do, and they're like, oh, I actually make an impact into like the things I'm doing around like other people. And little recognition always like creates it may be a small impact when you guys are recognizing people, but the person who gets recognized will actually create a big impact to them. So also another thing would be appreciation posts after an event. It's just kind of like a simple thank you or good job for coming out. Just because like a lot of people do have like busy schedules sometimes, and they take some time out of their day to come out, and they enjoy doing what they do. And sometimes it's just like good to hear a thank you or a good job. Lastly, there's a birthday recognition post that some clubs actually do. It's also like a fun way to like make sure like everyone gets recognized in the club throughout the year. It doesn't cost money or anything, and it just really makes someone feel special on their birthday. And those little recognition do help the members to keep going. Right, so MR Mondays. MR Mondays are actually started just like last month. So nomination forms are posted by your LTG or your division's member recognition representative. Every month, the prompt for MR Monday is different, so make sure you guys do look at the nomination form. If you guys do not see the nomination form on your division page for whatever reason, make sure to message your LTG or anyone on the member recognition committee, and we'll like send the link to you guys. Member recognition is basically our MR Mondays. Basically, what we do is every month we release nomination forms, and you guys can nominate someone who's like been doing their service, attending service events, being an excellent leader, or just like going out there, going socials, talking to people, and etc. Every week, the spotlight is different. Spotlights different divisions. So the first week there will be like the northern divisions, and then third week or second week will be like the SoCal divisions, and so on. At the end of the month is actually where we recognize the member of the month from each division. So you guys can always look out on Mondays. There will be posts about something about MR Mondays. And then another form of recognition is the MRP, so the Member Recognition Program. It's something is really good to like make sure you guys start promoting the MRP at the beginning of the school year, just so new members are aware of what the MRP is, and just sort of like they get a clue of what kind of they have to attend to hit what tier, bronze, silver, gold, or platinum. Make sure you guys do review this with like your members and your officers. Right here is listed everything that is required and like things you guys can attend to like hit a specific tier to get recognized at FTC and DCON.
So I'll be covering the do's when it comes to engaging your members. First, you want to make sure that you treat your members like they're your friends and not as other members. Just don't act like you're above them. You got to remember that you're all equals and more so friends in this organization. With that, try to get to know your members. Also, you want to have feedback channels available for your members for any issues or ideas they might have, since your board may not have all the answers. In addition, your members' interests, or keeping your members' interests in mind, shows that you care, and that would convince them to stay. And for me personally, this is a very important one, this next point. Please try to avoid cliques, because it's really hard to connect with your members when they feel like they're excluded from the club. Cliques also don't really go with the inclusive environment that you want for your club. Yeah. And you also want to be honest with your members, because if anything happens, you want to inform them about what is going on. Got to remember, communication is key and honesty is the best policy. If feasible, try to enter club, since it's a great way to meet new people, and who knows, maybe a new member can be a new friend. This is especially good if you have a rather small club, because members can meet more people on the outside.
Some don'ts for engaging your members: don't overwhelm them with back-to-back events, especially if you have a smaller club. Sometimes your members will end up scattered or even burnt out, which isn't something that you want from them. Also, they may feel indecisive about choosing their events, and they may end up choosing to not go to any events. Secondly, don't feel pressured to be professional all the time. So this ties back to treating your members as if they were your friends. Rather than creating an environment where everybody feels the need to be at their 110%, it's nice to have an environment where things can be casual and organic so that people can really create genuine relationships. Finally, don't pressure your members to go to events. And what we mean by this is, if we're being too aggressive with our members and really pushing them to go to things that they're not comfortable with, it can cause people to get really tired and burnt out, especially since balancing school, work, and maybe even other student organizations is not an easy feat. So we have various resources that anyone can access. We have our tabling manual, we have the recruitment and retention manual, and of course we have the district CNM, MD&E, and MR committees, and our members.
And now we'll be answering any questions, comments, or concerns you might have.
To ask those questions. I did have one about having consistency with club meetings, but also keeping it organic. Like how that was, or how you might see that working out, if that makes sense.
So for that, in terms of like keeping your meetings organic, you may want to like try like mixing up what you do at various meetings, because like you don't want to have like the same things at every meeting over and over again, like the same socials, the same activities, the same announcements, etc. Maybe talk to your board members about what you can do to like change up meetings. And in addition, you just want to like keep your meetings real and sort of have like, and sort of for like a consistent schedule. Make sure you are in contact with your board members for meetings that you want to attend consistently, whether it be like weekly or bi-weekly, etc. Usually they should have like a set day and time.
So we'll be answering some of the questions that we received on the form. One of the questions that we received was, how do I host a DCM? When it comes to DCMs, I think it's important, while there is this agenda that comes with DCMs, you know, the president's report and all of those things, that's a really important aspect to keep in the DCM, just because it allows for all of the schools to hear what their sister schools are going through and what they're doing, and also so that they can kind of get ideas from each other. That's really important. But I think it's also important to use the other tenants and incorporate that into a DCM. For example, you can turn a DCM into a social event, or you can turn a DCM into a service, or even a fundraising event, just to help your division out, because fundraising is always a great thing to have. Just the ability to have extra funds is always great, just in case you want to host more events in the future. So that is just one of the ways that you can really keep members engaged during a DCM, because although the agenda aspect is really great for a lot of the board members and for the people who are really involved in the leadership tenet, it's not the most fun thing for general members to come to.
So another question on the form is, how do you engage transfer students? From personal experience, since one of my closest friends who graduated was actually a transfer student from another school, I would just engage them the same way you usually engage your other members, whether that be inviting them to socials after meetings, whether that be hanging out, talking to them, interacting with them at meetings, and getting to know them and making sure you remember their name. Those transfer students, since they're coming from like a very different environment, from like one school to another, you want to make sure that they feel connected to your club, because they already left from one school to another. You want to make them feel like they're at home or something like that.
All right, so another question we got was, what are some ways to recognize returning members at general meetings, DCMs, etc.? So, I mean, it's pretty much the same as like new members, returning members, like getting a certificate, member of the week, member of the month, saying good job, thank you. Something you can spice it up is, you know, if you're as a board and you guys are willing to, you guys can pitch in and get like a little prize or something for like when it's like member of the week, officer of the week, member of the month, or officer of the month. Those little things tend to like motivate people, kind of like incentives for them to, you know, get recognized. And, you know, returning members or new members, they're the same. They like should be equally recognized. So, yeah.
Another question that we received was, if someone is on the fence about joining, what's the best way to get them in? Something that I've seen really effective with people who are on the fence is to try to relate Circle K to them. What I mean by this is, Circle K is a very diverse organization. In each club, we have our own strengths and weaknesses, but in each club, we also showcase a huge range, whether that be with services or socials or just any other events. So I like to first ask the potential member, what is something they're looking for into an organization. And then I like to take their answer and then kind of turn it into or relate it back to Circle K and what our club would be known for.
So another question we received is, can you give a quick example of an elevator pitch about CKI? This goes back to what I mentioned before about when you meet new members at tabling, you want to give like a 30-second pitch about your organization. So this could be something like Circle K is the largest student-led organization with something like, you can say community service events such as cleaning up a local street, large-scale service projects like DLSSP. Well, don't use acronyms. Just say like an example of something you did at DLSSP. And leadership such as talk about board members' experiences and chairing events, being a family head, etc. And fellowship, where you talk about what kind of socials you guys have. Maybe you go into do karaoke at round one, going out to boba runs, gym dates, dinner dates, etc. So you want to keep it like brief, but you want to, you want to like explain that much, but keep it like very brief, if that makes sense. I hope that answers your question.
Next question is, how should we keep returning members engaged? So like one of the biggest thing would be, don't host the same events over and over again, just because returning members have experienced it and they wouldn't want to experience it more than like twice. It might be fun for new members, but sometimes if you switch it up, you can have this year you guys do this event, and then next year you guys do another one, and then the following year you guys can do like the one you guys did like the other year. So you kind of like alternating events, like if you guys have big events and such. So that'll definitely keep it spicy for like the returning members and the new members.
Another question we received: what are some ways to engage with members on social media? What kind of content do you think best generates traffic to our profiles? Something I've seen really effective in the past was using social media as a platform in order to promote your upcoming events and to recognize your members. By using social media as a way to recognize members, you're really giving them a place where they can be at the spotlight, because not everybody may see the recognition happening during your general body meetings, but most people check their social media daily.
Another question we received is, for the 30 seconds of talking about CKI during tabling, is there like any templates we can keep a mental note on, since I'm not really good at advertising? I would say just start off with what Circle K is. Say like Circle K is the largest student-led organization, or student-led organization, excuse me, sorry. I would say talk about like your experience with it, like what kind of events you've had. That is the best mental note I can give you, because since you want to talk about, you sort of want to relate your experience with other members, since you're kind of like think of it as like you're advertising your experience and that can engage your members if you had a great experience. I hope that makes sense.
How do you keep members engaged in service events as well? For example, a lot of people come out for the social aspect. So like most people sometimes do join Circle K just for the social aspect, but for service events wise, make sure to tell them, it's another social aspect. It's just like another way you guys can bond with members during a service event, and just kind of promoting the meaningful service and letting them know why you guys are doing that service event and how it impacts the community and stuff like that.
So we are still accepting questions. The link is in the chat, and feel free to use that to ask any more questions. So we got a question of, can you oversell the club? I find that overselling to mean that you're doing it in a really unnatural way. Like you're trying to promote your club in a way where it seems too Barbie doll-ish, you know, where it's just extremely perfect, how you're just, oh yes, we do this and that, and we're like the most amazing thing ever. But in a way, you have to just make sure that when you do sell your club, you do it in a way that seems very organic. Like it's okay to slip up on your speech sometimes. It's okay to kind of not have your pitch down to a T. Just because sometimes, especially with newer members or with members who are brand new to college, even like first years, sometimes when you make things a little too shiny, it can scare people away from the club.
So one person asked on the forum, give us your best pitch for CKI. Personally, this is what I personally used at a tabling one time back in during the spring quarter. I said basically Circle K is the largest collegiate community service organization in the world, where we can do service events such as clean up our local street, helping out a food bank, preparing gifts for the homeless, and talk about leadership such as we have an abundance of chairs for service events, stuff like that. And for fellowship, we have events such as like s'mores social, boba socials, which are also fundraisers, which also goes into fellowship as well. So basically, in terms of your pitch, you basically just sort of want to summarize what your club does and like list things that you really enjoy as well, because who knows, maybe that person can also enjoy those things as well.
What key things should we CKI members impress upon new members so that they feel informed going to DCM or FTC? Most important, probably your own experience, letting them know like what you guys do at DCMs and FTC and how your first experience was, like such as your first time attending a DCM or your first time going to FTC, and just saying what we do. Another thing would be showing videos, FTC videos or just like division videos, so to first get them like engaged in the club before you move on to the division level so quick, just so they can like make sure they get involved through the club and they kind of know like the basics of Circle K, and then you slowly just get them into like the division and into the district, just so they feel more informed when they do attend these events, instead of like going there and they feel like they don't know what they're doing. And most of the time new members don't feel as comfortable when they don't know what they're doing. So just making sure you guys are there and make sure you guys explain what they are before you just like throw them in the pot.
Another question we received on the form is, how do I engage members if I have no members? So despite having a small club, advertise how you are also able to make friends within the division and the district as well, because your connections to your division and the district would leave a great impression on new members as well, because those members will be engaged like, oh, wow, it's not just my school, it's also another school, and people throughout the entirety of California, Nevada, and Hawaii as well.
Another question we received was, how do I engage members if I have no members? Well, I think smaller clubs have a unique opportunity to create really intimate bonds with their members, just because it's a lot easier for you to get to know each other. So that's one thing, is that you're able to create these intimate relationships in a certain sense. So that's one way to keep them engaged. And another thing is, even with a small club, you can advertise how you're able to make friends within your division and within the district, because your Circle K membership expands beyond just your home club.
How do I advertise district events like FTC, Decon, or CKI South, since nobody in the club had ever gone? Something you can do is always reach out to your LTG or members that have gone from other clubs or the division. Have them talk to like the members that are interested, or you guys can always go on YouTube. Just search up FTC or Decon or CKI North. There's a lot of videos up there that actually really like promotes what FTC is. We actually have like a new FTC video that came out to like promote when FTC is, what to expect and stuff. So those are the things that you can show to your club, even though if you've never been. If you want like personal input, you can always message the FTC committee, the Decon committee, or someone on the district board about CKI North or South. Those are like really good ways to actually get real input of like what it's like to be there and what you guys do and how it will like impact and what members will learn from these events.
Another question we received is, what tenet should I emphasize the most when explaining Circle K? This is a good question, but I would say service, because you have to remember you are a service organization first. And so you want to talk about what kind of services you guys do, and put your emphasis on service and helping out the community and helping out the rest of your division and your district as well, because that is important for how you represent your club and how you paint your club in general as well.
Question is, are committees good leadership opportunities for members? So there are, if you're talking about club committees, because some clubs actually do have club committees, any committee actually, like whether it's club, division, or district, is always a good leadership opportunity. It's a way for you to learn how to make posts or slides or present a workshop, stuff like that. And you kind of learn more about Circle K and, the graphic standards, how to promote Circle K and stuff like that. So joining committees is definitely a good opportunity, not only for leadership, but you also get to meet other people like within the club, within your division, or within the district.
Hello.
So another question that we received was, what are some ways to stand out from other clubs? No matter what situation you're in, there will always be other clubs trying to take members around the same time, just because Fall Rush is a very popular time for membership recruitment. But the biggest way that you can stand out from other clubs is by utilizing different member engagement techniques that we were talking about throughout this webinar. Because by creating an actual relationship where you remember people by their name, various things that they tell to you and relate to you, by doing so, you're really going to leave a lasting impression on potential members, which will get them to want to come back to your club time and time again.
Another question we received is, what are some ways to stand out from other clubs? This is actually a really good question, because you have to remember, on any college campus, there are also other community service organizations as well. So I would say the best way is to emphasize, like, what kind of not only services do you guys do that are different from other service organizations, but also emphasize some of your biggest events as well, like fall training conference. You can emphasize all the activities, what happens at FTC as well. So in short, basically, I would say try to use your experience to differ from other organizations as well, especially if they're community service organizations.
Another question we received was, what's the best way to integrate a big, little, or family system if your club has never done so before? So integrating these fellowship systems can be really difficult if you don't have as much experience. But first, I would start off with asking some of the other clubs in your division about some of the effective tactics that they used when developing their systems, just because it's always great to have outside input. From there, I'd start kind of small in terms of the fellowship systems. For example, if it's your first time doing a family system, rather than having like 4, 5, or even more families, I'd start with having 2 families and then just splitting up the members in half in a kind of random way, just so that they can have smaller groups to meet each other with. The same thing goes with the big little system. Because even if you don't have as many people sign up during the first year, the most important part is that you were able to set that foundation so that for the next year and the years going on from there, they'll be able to build upon that foundation.
So another question is, how do we tackle the stigma of joining clubs at a community college? Advertise how the club is a great way to network with people that may want to transfer as well. You can make friends and ask advice from these friends at 4 years once you get to them.
Adding on to that answer, also just when you're in a community college and you do have a diverse group of Circle K friends from other schools, if you do transfer that to that school, you're already going to have a friend group and you're already going to have a community because there is a Circle K to the school that you're transferring to. So it's not going to be such a scary transition.
And another question is, how do you engage people at a community college? The best ways to do this would be tabling and reaching out to people in your classroom, because in a classroom, you can have like that sort of connection to people as well. You can talk to them about Circle K, sort of use like your pitch in classrooms as well, if you have the time, of course. And that can sort of draw members into your club as well. Like, and they may be interested, and who knows, they may be interested in it.
All right, so that's all the questions we have. If you have any more questions that weren't answered, or you didn't submit it in time, or you think of later, feel free to message one of the hosts. Our information is below, or you can message one of the chairs. Just let us know if you have any questions. The sign-in is right on there. It will also be posted on the event page, so make sure you guys do sign in if you guys have attended. Thank you for attending, guys.